Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Directed IRA podcast with yours truly, Mark Kohler and Matt Sorensen. I got to introduce us, so it's Mark Kohler and Matt Sorensen. I don't care who came first in the Bible, so deal with it.
Oh, are we still fighting over that?
Yes, we are. My feelings were hurt yesterday, so I just,
I thought I threw down the best source of reference and how you should order that. I mean, I didn't make that decision. Someone a little smarter than me decided. Does Matthew come before Mark? I just
the Isle of Patmos. Anyway, I'll say this. Matt is a headliner. I'm a headliner. It's hard to decide sometimes who's a bigger deal for the day. So I'm gonna take it by the bull by the horns today, and in the introduction, that's the way it happens. So, and welcome everybody. As you can tell, we try to keep this fun, keep it interesting. Both of us are tax lawyers now. The firm is 20 years old. We've got an amazing team of tax lawyers in our law firm. Our sister accounting firm, CPAs, doing taxes like crazy. They're not even coming up for air right now. It's tax season. They won't even talk to Matt or I. So, and then our sister company, of course, that is sponsoring our podcast is Directed IRA Trust Company, directedira.com. Matt is the CEO. I'm the CFO. We've got some great investors and a whole other team of amazing employees that are working their butts off right now at our Phoenix headquarters, helping clients set up all sorts of cool directed accounts. So yeah, we hope you're at the right spot, people.
Yeah. And self-directed accounts that's our thing we love to talk about. And this podcast is dedicated to self-directed questions. Today's episode is going to be what you want to know. We've got a number of questions that have came in. This is open forum. Remember, you can always go to directedira.com/podcast. There's an ask a question button. If you get a self-directed question that pops in your head and you're like, I don't want to go call the law firm and pay by the hour to answer this. And it's a good question that you think other people might want to hear. Hey, free legal advice. Go put in your question at directedira.com.
All right. I like it. And that's what we're doing today. It is the Q&A forum. My assistant brought me lunch, but my producer also said you cannot eat while on camera or on the podcast, and I'm dying here. So I might have to just mute and take a bite while we're here. We're just so busy. We're so grateful. Thank you for bringing that. People, I just love the American dream. I just got out of a staff meeting today and talking with our team about the clients calling up from around the country. Just thrilled about building wealth and saving a few taxes and just having a place where they can get straight answers that's not an arm and a leg and expensive. And so this podcast is one of those venues. We've got a weekly newsletter, a second podcast that we do each week called Main Street Business, which is more general in nature on small business Main Street stuff.
1.4 million downloads.
Woo!
Of that podcast. So, it does get listened to. So don't feel crazy. Like, if you're like, I must be the only one listening to a podcast with two tax attorneys. No, there's others. You are not alone. It's okay. Don't feel like a nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. We're nerds. It's okay to be a nerd.
It's cool.
Nerds rule the world.
I think Ashton Kutcher at the he won some awards, like some Kids Choice Award or whatever, and he said, being smart is cool. Something like that. It was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, as many of you know, we try to get in a few jokes, a little movie quote here and there. We try to keep this fun and real. Do not let that be a reflection of our skill set or our intellect. We are reading and studying anything and everything regarding to self-directing retirement accounts. It's a crazy world out there with lots and lots of opportunities to invest. I took my health savings account and did another unique investment this week. So maybe we'll talk about that. It involves hay.
Okay. Hey, okay.
It's like trading places.
Hey, hooray.
Like the commodity, grain, futures. Pork bellies. I'm thinking of Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, trading commodities, but that's an 80s throwback there for some of you. But yeah, I bought hay, and I'll explain why later.
Okay.
And for those that are in the know when it comes to farming, that is called alfalfa.
Oh, okay.
It's green.
I did not know that hay is from alfalfa.
Well, now you know.
I always come to this podcast and learn something.
Yeah. Wheat, we can turn into straw, but hay, what cows eat is alfalfa. So
interesting. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a bunch of questions from people off our website, off social media, in our email inbox. Oh my gosh, we won't get to all of them. We will continue to try to do so. And if you feel like you're a little bit lost, please get to directedira.com or any of our family of websites and purchase the 2-day summit that we held 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
$199, 12 hours of content, on location reporting, out in the field, teaching people how to self-direct. It was a hit this year. So
it was awesome. And the production quality of it, you'll see, is amazing. I mean, if there's a category for virtual summits at the Oscars, we would win. I think we just win Best Picture, or one of the big ones. We'd win. All right. Well, let me start off. I've got a good question that came in from social media, from Hope. I figure let's just start a question. Let's start off with a question from Hope.
Ooh, that's just positive in nature right there.
I know. It's a Roth IRA question on top of it.
How could naming your kid Hope is just, it's a good move.
It is.
You don't want to name your kid Debbie Downer. Hope.
To all the Debbies out there, Mark, I apologize for Mark. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hope's question was, should I start a Roth IRA now if next year and on I'll be making too much to contribute again? Okay. So yes, I would start a Roth IRA now. I would always start a Roth IRA. If you've got the money to contribute, definitely start a Roth IRA. But what Hope's question is getting at is an important thing to know about Roth IRAs. Okay. The first thing is you can put $6,000 in a year. So we always want to start now because you can only get in $6,000 a year. So you've got to get enough fuel in the tank, so to speak, to get where you want to go at the end of the day. And throwing in $6,000 a year, you have to be disciplined to do that in order to get enough fuel in the tank to make the investments you want to do. So just for that purpose, even if your income's not going to change, Hope, yes, get it in because we want 6 in now. Now you still have until May 17th to make 2020 contributions. So you could put in $12,000 right now. You could put in 6 for 2020 still, and 6 again for 2021. That's the same for traditional IRAs too.
Yes. But 2 quick side notes. If you are 55 or over, you can put 50 or over, you can put in an extra 1,000. So it's 7. And next, didn't she say, I might make too much money this year or next year?
Yeah, it's the next year. So that's the next point. So that's the second part I want to say. So the first tip is.
So you're going to take both parts. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
My question.
I was just going to contribute, but.
This is my question.
Okay, fine. Jeez.
You take your own questions. Okay. All right.
Gosh.
All right.
Go ahead. You go on ahead.
All right. I claimed this one. I own it.
Okay. All right.
So the first tip is, remember, start now because we want to get in the 2020 contribution, which you only got, less than 10 days now by the time this recording's live. So you got a short window there. And we don't want to lose the ability to get that 6 in. The second point that Mark's noting, and which is the premise of Hope's question, is I'm going to make too much money next year. Well, what do you mean too much money? Is there ever such a problem of making too much money? Like, whenever you start a question with like, I'm going to make too much money next year. Okay, just first, I want you to sit back and think, things are going good. Things are going good for me. I'm making too much money. Here's my problem. All right.
Okay.
Now, in the Roth IRA context, if you're making more than about 130 grand single, 200 married, somewhere in there, you will phase out to make Roth IRA contributions through the front door. The regular $6,000 you can put in. But for high income earners, you can still do a backdoor Roth IRA where you put in $6,000 to a traditional IRA that's non-deductible and you convert it to Roth. It's a 2-step process, but for high income earners or those that maybe max out their 401k already and they can't make they can't make regular Roth IRA contributions through the front door, there is the backdoor Roth IRA. Go back and listen to that podcast, Hope. We have podcasts on it on Directed IRA podcast and on the Main Street Business podcast, just on the backdoor Roth IRA strategy, as well as a page on the Directed IRA website.
Oh, are you done?
I will yield. I will yield my time. I will yield my time now to the gentleman from Idaho.
Okay, I didn't know. Oh, you were talking. Okay, so you're finished. All right, just making sure. I ran and got a sandwich.
I was buying you time for lunch. You said you were hungry.
Yeah. Well, it's not sitting here. I'm gonna pass out. Damn it. Okay, now. As much as I want to move on from Matt's question, I feel I have a very important tip that I need to share with all of you that have a concern about maybe making too much money this year or next. Sometimes you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make more than that. You know, my business is we're upscaling scaling up right now, and we might make more money. So here would be my recommendation that directly conflicts with Matt Sorensen today, since that's how he wants to run the show today, a little more adversarial. I would say this, and all kidding aside, for those of you that think you might make too much money and not sure, just open a traditional IRA, put the money in. And then at the end of the year, Hope, you can, before December 31st, you just convert it to Roth. That way you're safe. Because if you go put the money in a Roth and make too much money, unwinding that is a pain in the butt. Wouldn't you agree, Matt? Like, when in doubt, just do the traditional and then do a conversion at the end of the year. No?
I don't love that.
Why not?
I mean, for 2020, So for 2020, we know.
Yeah. 2020, we're done. Water under the bridge.
2021, let's say you're not sure you're going to hit the income limit. The hard thing is, if I put the money in a traditional now, well, what if I want to invest it today? What if I want to go buy crypto today? Or I'm going to put it in an investment.
And it goes up, and then you convert to Roth.
And then it goes up, and then I convert to Roth, and now I put in 6, and my account's now worth, 7 or whatever it is, So now I have to pay.
Okay, what happens if Hope puts it in Roth today? Puts it in Dogecoin or something. It's worth $20,000 come December. But she made too much money to do the Roth in the first place.
Yeah.
What's the solution? What happens? I'm actually asking you honestly. I forgot. The other day I was trying to figure that out.
It's a good question. We should submit that to the Directed IRA podcast. Open forum.
Yeah, those losers, they'll know. Yeah, those guys know what they're doing.
Roth is going to be disqualified. So then it can go to traditional.
At the day you would contributed,
you
go back to 6.
Too. All the gains go back too.
So now you're back to my strategy that you might just have to convert. So your opinion is start with the Roth. If you make too much money, it reverts to a traditional contribution, and then you can convert at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I stand corrected. Matt, you're muted, which I'm not opposed to, but you're muted.
Yeah. I thought you did that. Did you mute me? No. Okay.
No, that was not. Is that my lunch? Are you going to? I can't have it up here.
You bought me.
What? She didn't bring you lunch either?
No,
okay. All right. Okay, everybody, if that was a little confusing, let's take a breath. This is a really good question Hope brought up. Everybody stop for a minute and just go, whew, boy, that was a whirlwind. Let me say this. Matt Sorensen and I, from day one, have always said, always contribute to your Roth every year. If you have the wherewithal to do it, do it. And if you say, well, I make too much money, then you do the backdoor Roth. Well, I have a day job with a 401k. You can still do a Roth. People, there are ways to do this, and you're here at the right place to learn how to do it. So that's point number 1. Now, Hope says, well, I make too much money. I can't do it. Now she knows I can do the backdoor, so you're okay. But the big issue that we're debating right now is, if you do make too much money, sometimes you don't know that till the end of the year, but you want to start investing now. So instead of doing a traditional and convert to a Roth later when the account value has gone up, start a Roth now. If you do make too much money, the Roth will revert to a traditional IRA contribution, and you're going to have to convert any gain that occurred during that period. That's really probably the best move. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm just looking it up now. It doesn't automatically revert to a traditional. So you actually have to pay a penalty for an excess contribution and then get the funds out. So,
I've got a third option.
Okay.
I got a third one. Okay, here's mine before you go further. I say make a traditional contribution and convert to Roth on day 2. Right there. Just do it right then.
Yeah. So if you think your income is going to be close to the limit.
Oh, well, if you're questioning your income might be too high, don't risk it. So do your Roth right now before May 17th for 2020. Easy schmeezy. Because you're unsure.
You know what they say about, keep going.
And if you're unsure about your income this year, do a traditional, and on day 2, go to Roth. Then you're done. Then you don't have to worry about it at all. Problem solved. Okay, and then you were going to give us a quote.
Well, you said don't risk it, but you know what they say? No risk it, no biscuit.
Who says that? Someone,
people like riding motorcycles over like flaming cars and stuff.
I think that's someone at Waffle House at exit 92 in South Carolina said that. Risk it or no biscuit. Okay, I'll take the grits with butter and yeah. Oh, I love
no
Waffle
risk
House.
It, no biscuit. Okay,
that's my weakness. Like if there was a Waffle House right nearby, I'd just blow my lunch diet right now. Wouldn't you, Corey?
Oh my gosh!
Right now,
any day.
Corey knows Waffle House. He's from Texas. Oof. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on to another question, and I'm going to call a truce. I think we just need to get back to our normal, friendly selves.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Let's operate in a bipartisan nature.
Yes. If only our Congress could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Gary. Gary says, how long does it take before I can start trading using an IRA LLC, assuming we just started the process of changing custody from another company to yours, i.e. I was at Fidelity? Now, Gary, there's several answers to this question. So can I take first stab, Mr. Sorensen?
Yeah.
Representative from Arizona?
Gary, in his question before, Gary was asking about crypto.
Okay.
So I presume he's talking about crypto trading, or what trading is he talking about?
Yeah. And Gary, you're only entitled to one question. Don't be offended by that. We have so many questions. We can't just make this the Gary show. So I'm sorry. But but I appreciate you sending in questions. Okay. So here's this. This is a good one. Okay. So I'm going to assume, since Gary's talking about crypto in another question he submitted, the answer is, for any of you that want to start trading in crypto, you could do it within the next 24 to 48 hours, that fast. Option 1.
Yeah, that's not feasible. I'll just say that's way too fast, because you've got to set up your account. That takes us 24 hours, and you got to get it funded.
Yeah.
So if you're sending money from Fidelity, they're going to take 3 to 5 days to get it here.
Okay. No, I apologize. I should say, once your account is funded, the money's in there, and your Gemini account is being created, which takes about 24 hours, right?
Right. It's about 24-hour time frame once you submit your ID and you get verified. That's all you got to do. We do everything else to set up the account for you. All you got to do is verify who the heck you are, and you get access to trade. And that is about 48 hours has been the most, sometimes on weekends.
Yeah. And that's a fair point. When some people say, how long until you trade? 24 hours from this event. Now, if you're starting from square one, you call Fidelity and go, I'm going to sell all my shiz. I'm going to move my account. And then you call you get online at Directed IRA, open your account. Then you got to move it. Then you get it going. But that's option 1. So for any of you that want to trade crypto, you would set up a crypto account, whether it was a Roth, a traditional, a Coverdell, whatever it is, at Directed IRA. There's a webpage just for that. Okay, that's option 1. Option 2.
And that's the fast option. Let me say that.
Yeah.
Like Gary's question is, how long until I can do this? With the crypto IRA, it's about a week. If you're starting from scratch, like you haven't set up an account directed, you haven't funded it, you can be trading in about a week. And we've had some clients go, 4 days probably would be the fastest I've seen so far.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to say this to everybody. Don't beat the crap out of our employees, please. They're working hard and fast. In fact, sugar and a little bit of honey, a little bit of kindness on the phone is always going to get your account faster. So please treat
the thing is, what I'll just say on the process is we're fast.
Yeah.
Fidelity is not. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're going to get everything you need done on our end. It's going to be the delay in getting money over. Now, Fidelity is actually faster than most. Yeah, Fidelity and TD are pretty fast, but there's certain institutions you could be at that might take 2 weeks to get your money over here.
Now look at this, Matt. What is this that I'm pouring? Can you see that?
Is that like ranch? What is that?
No,
like
it's the Cafe Rio
Cafe Rio
dressing.
Oh, but isn't it a ranch dressing? Don't they call it their ranch?
I don't know. It's got cilantro in it and stuff too.
Yeah, there's cilantro ranch.
Whatever. Okay. Know it all. Okay. But it's going to be good here because I'm pouring it on my salad and I cannot wait to take a bite. Now, option 2. In Gary's question, he actually said, can I start trading using an IRA LLC? Okay, so option 1 was fast Gemini account. Now, Gary may want to be doing some crypto trading or some sort of trading that would require an LLC. Now, he doesn't want to use Gemini platform, or he's got another creative idea going on. Now that you need an LLC, you've got the law firm engaged in the process. And we have lawyers that have created space on our legal team for clients that are in a hurry. And we appreciate, if you're not in a hurry, don't ask to be put to the front of the line.
Don't clog up the emergency room, all right?
Yeah. You just got a superficial wound. You can wait, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's just a mere flesh wound. It's okay.
It's a flesh wound. That's all you got. Boy, we even quoted some Holy Grail. This is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now with the law firm, the lawyers can expedite and the paralegals can expedite. And I think you could have an LLC, depending on the state, because it has to be registered with the state. We got to get a tax ID number. You've got to open a bank account. So you've got banking that can slow this down, yada, yada. So not only do you need to open the account and get the money from a Fidelity, now you've got to have the law firm prepare the LLC, get it over to Directed. And again, we have a very cohesive relationship between the law firm and Directed, which you're not going to find at very many places whatsoever. And the two will communicate. You can tell Savannah at the law firm to talk to Heidi at Directed, and they'll help move things along. But I would say probably 2 weeks at least. And that's assuming you're in a state where I can get your LLC done quick.
Yeah. Let me just give a reality check too on the IRA LLC. The IRA LLC is what we used for crypto before we started had a special relationship with Gemini. So, we have an institutional relationship with Gemini where we can set up the accounts for your specific IRA account and you can go trade directly out of your IRA account. Now, if you want to trade use another exchange, you want to hold the private keys and use the IRA LLC, great. That's what we've been doing for years. But you've got to get the LLC set up. So that's an additional time lack that you don't have with the crypto IRA. The second problem is the exchanges and the wallets, when you're setting up with an LLC, are taking forever. They have been, this last 6 months, the crypto market and every provider that offers wallets and has an exchange, particularly the credible ones, they are hammered with business, and they have deprioritized these smaller LLCs that aren't a hedge fund trading tens of millions. They've prioritized these as like low priority, so you're not getting done quickly. I've heard clients waiting over a month to 2 months, and a lot of our other competitors, that's the only structure that has the LLC, are telling their people 2 to 3 months to get this done. So the IRA LLC, if you're wanting to trade crypto now, like that, just think about trading it in June. Yeah. Okay. It's just not the way to do it. So we got a lot of clients that have just done, well, I want to get in on crypto today, but I want to do it long term also with an IRA LLC. Do both accounts. Do the crypto IRA because they're in a hurry. They feel like something's going to happen in May. Then the opportunity won't be there so much in June, whatever. And so that's the tough part on it. We're dealing here every day because we're doing, we're setting up a lot of accounts, self-directed accounts and crypto accounts right now. And everybody watches the crypto market and it fluctuates heavily. And people freak out because they see it dip and they want to buy, and they're waiting for someone to approve their wallet for their LLC.
Now, let me add a couple other points. Third option. Some of you may be saying, well, he's talking about trading in real estate or trading in notes or trading some other asset. If you don't need to set up a crypto wallet, getting an LLC done and getting it funded from your Fidelity to directed to your LLC so you can start trading vehicles. I talked to a client this morning that's trading on cars. So that LLC you can have up and going in a couple weeks, again, depending on the state where you're trying to get set up and going. There's not this wait for a wallet thing that's crypto driven. The last option I would say is some of you are going, oh, well, I'm talking about trading in the stock market. I want to self-direct, but I'm not sure what I'm going to self-direct yet, but I want to get the account over to you guys. I want to get the LLC formed, and I want to start trading a few stocks while I'm waiting in the wings to pull the trigger on a bigger self-directed idea. Very common. Well, in this last year, we've been able to add a trading brokerage feature. Matt, how long does that take, and how would that process work? Oh, sorry, you're on mute again.
Yeah, that's set up in a day. So you can set up the trading account. I mean, for stocks and mutual funds, that's just added. But that's the Gemini trading account is like you log in and go trade the crypto. The brokerage account you add on for your account if you want to buy stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, like we're adding the ability to buy those stocks, and then you're going to request what to buy through us. And it's $80 a year for that, $35 a trade for a mutual fund, $35 plus 3 cents per share for stock.
Okay. All right. And it's not 3 cents per share. No, it's 3 cents per share or 3 cents per what?
Yeah, per share. $35 plus 3 cents per share.
Yeah. Not 3 cents a dollar. We've had people ask that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Boy, Hope and Gary have asked 2 great questions that really open the doors to a lot. Okay, Matt, your question.
Okay. Let's go to Bill. Okay. He says, love the podcast. Question regarding the solo 401k. If the plan allows for after-tax contributions, which our solo 401k does, can 100% of the contribution for the year be allocated to this? Or does there have to be an employee elective deferral before after-tax contributions can be made? Okay, this is a weird question. I don't know a requirement that you could. Let me say this.
Say unique. Don't say
you
weird.
Could make 100% after tax, but I have no reason. There's no reason I could see on this earth why you would do that. Like I don't get that. You would do like I don't know. Maybe you're trying to go all Roth. I don't know. But you would just do 19.5 of Roth contributions. Then the rest would all be after tax. Let me say, after tax contributions, though, are not, while you can make them, you have to account for them separately. You know, if you're going to convert them to Roth, which is usually what we would recommend, you're going to have an extra form on your 1040 showing you did that. So after tax contributions in your solo K aren't as easy as you may think. Our solo K allows for it. It's usually the thing you do after you've maxed out any other contributions you can make, the easy ones, like your 19.5 elective deferral. But you still have to have the earnings and income too, the wages, to do the after-tax contribution also. That was a wonky question. I don't.
No, look at.
Bill,
I'm
curious where you were going with that, Bill. I was like, I don't know where he's going with it. What he's trying to do.
Yeah, and I didn't know if using the word weird or wonky is offensive to Bill. Bill, you say that's a very unique question, Bill. Man, we've got to work on this PC stuff.
I know,
Matt. Bill, keep listening. I got your back. I'll have a talk with Matt after. Okay.
Wonky is wonky. That means he's smart. Like that's a good question.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to jump over to Michael Caesar. Question. And this is a politically charged question. laid with landmines in front of me, so I've got to be careful what I say.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm going to just read the question and then we'll go from there. I have researched and have found a whole life cash value life insurance policy. Have heard of a strategy that allows rollover of self-directed into life insurance using either investment grade insurance contract, IGIC, or an ILIT, irrevocable life insurance trust. Am told they are compliant with IRS and involves the IRA purchasing shares of a company and the company has the life insurance policy. Thoughts? Okay. Now I'm going to make a more policy type comment, and Matt can comment on whether this is even legal, possible, or whatever, maybe. Here's my policy comment. And I'm going to make someone mad, but I'm just going to say it, and I have to just be who I am. David Ramsey has offended and alienated every every credit card company on the planet, calling them evil compared to the devil. So that's okay. I almost feel as strongly about whole life insurance as Dave Ramsey feels about credit cards and debt. There is always some life insurance company that is coming up with some crazy idea, and I will stand by the word crazy, trying to get people to divest themselves of their retirement accounts, Corey, and to also liquidate their retirement accounts so that they can go overly fund a whole life insurance policy so they can borrow against it tax-free, and there's a death benefit, and it's the best thing next to sliced bread. And I've heard it, I've studied it, I know it, I understand it. I've looked at universal whole life, the contract, and not overfunding, and I could go through all the terms. Been there, done that. And I'm still not a believer, and I'll tell you why, life insurance people. I have never in my life met someone that actually overfunded a whole life insurance policy 10 years ago or 15 years ago or even 7 years ago, and they're actually using the policy with these tax-free loans and even died, let alone and a family member go, oh my gosh, that was the best deal ever. Never seen it, never heard of it. In fact, I meet life insurance agents that said, I had to get out of that racket because I couldn't sleep at night. Because 90% of the people that do those policies and plans, the policy fails. The only winner is the life insurance agent that got a huge commission. That people have drained their retirement accounts. It fails. It's a nightmare. I have never seen it work. And someone out there has said, I've seen it work. Great. Send me an email. Send me the hate mail. I get it. And maybe 1 out of 1,000, this actually works. Oh boy. I opened up floodgates of hate mail, but tell
me how you really feel.
I know. I'm just so sick of this life insurance sales pitch. Now, is life insurance bad? Nope. Is whole life insurance bad? Nope. If you've got money coming out of your ears and you've bought your rentals and you've funded your retirement accounts and your business is strong and you've paid down the debt on your home and you're doing all these right things and you still have money to invest and you want to do some whole life, knock yourself out. But to drain a retirement account? It's almost criminal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Matt, can they even do it?
Can they even do it?
Can an IRA own a company that owns life insurance on my life to somehow backdoor into a life insurance policy?
Definitely not.
This is a whole new
definitely
twist.
not. Yeah, IRAs can't own life insurance as an investment anyways. There's only 3 things you can't buy with an IRA. Collectibles, life insurance, and S-Corp stock. So no, plus even that it is on your life that you can't do that. So okay.
Get a new opinion.
Yeah.
All right.
Not fans over here. My guess, here's the hard thing is someone's always selling that policy, right? And they know your money's in an IRA. So the whole life insurance policy, they know that's where your money's at. So they've tried to sell it to your IRA, even though it's square peg in a round hole and it's not really what fits. But okay, let me go to David's question. This is a good one.
Okay.
He says, can contributions to a Roth solo K be withdrawn at any time like contributions to a Roth IRA? Thanks for a great podcast, David.
That's a great question.
It is a great question. It doesn't have a great answer, though. So Roth IRAs, remember, when you put money into a Roth IRA, you can take the contribution out without tax or penalty at any time. The earnings in the Roth IRA, so let's say you put $6,000 in and now the account's worth $8,000 a year later, and you're like, I need that $6,000 back. You can take out the $6,000, let the other two stay in there. You can take out the $6,000 at any time, no tax, no penalty. The $2,000 of earnings still need to sit in there, and you pay tax and penalty to get those out, though. But you can always take out what you put in from a Roth IRA. The Roth Solo K is not the same. There's a couple of problems with that in the 401k context. The first is that you can't get employee contributions out of a 401k period while you're still working. So, and this is even for your solo case. Okay. That's a rule. Employer contributions can come out early, but those are going to be traditional. They're not going to be your Roth dollars. So you got kind of a clunkiness issue there that 401ks have that IRAs don't. The second is the ordering rules on how you have to pull the money out between contributions and earnings is not like you get to take the contributions out first, where you get to take, and then you take out earnings second in the Roth IRA. In the Solo K, there's a 5-year earnings rule where you have to clock the time that the earnings that are in there to when they can come out. It's not the same. Let me just say that. Don't plan on being able to pull out your Roth Solo K contributions early. The only way you're getting the Roth Solo K contributions out is you hit 59 and a half and you've had the money in there for 5 years.
Wow. Okay. Tough. All right.
I told you a good question, bad answer.
Yeah. Okay. It's that time in the show where I talk about the investment in my Roth, or actually health savings account.
Okay.
All right. So I'll take my glasses off for this. First, our normal disclaimer. Please, everybody, we are not advocating that you flip real estate, trade notes, buy crypto, buy cows, crypto mine, any sort. We just want you to know what you can do as options for your choice in investing in your retirement account. So we just have to be careful, give that little disclaimer, and we appreciate your understanding there. We're always excited to hear about new ideas. So some of you that listened to this summit got to actually even see the cows I bought inside my health savings account LLC called the Dutton Kohler Livestock Company. So excited about that name. It's a little reference to Yellowstone, and shout out to all those fans out on Yellowstone. So Kevin Costner sure looks good. I got to get a hat just like Kevin Costner. I'm making a drive to Jackson Hole in the next week or two just to buy a sweet cowboy hat. I'm telling you, it's an hour drive, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you do own some cows, so
yep. It's true. Actually, I do not own cows. My health savings account owns cows, right? Okay.
I think you still earned a cowboy hat for that.
All right. So now here's the new. Yeah, I did. Just trying to help our listeners, our customers understand the difference between me and my HSA. Just being a little anal there. Okay. So here's my new investment. So my rancher, that is the custodian of my cows and taking care of the pasture, because I cannot do it. That's self-dealing, prohibited transaction. I can't go out there and play with my cows. Oh, sorry. I can go out and pet them. If they're asleep, I can tip them over. I can tease them, but I cannot go out and feed my cows. That would be prohibited.
I can't believe you've never been cow tipping before.
Maniac, what? Maniac. Oh, Tommy boy. Okay, so my rancher called me up and he's like, Mark, are you going to keep these cows through the winter? I said, well, I don't know still. Because see, I have 5 moms that just gave birth to 5 bull calves. They're called bull calves. Oh, okay. I had to think through it because heifers are female calves. Bull calves are male calves, soon to be steer calves when a fateful day comes in the near future and they're turned into steers. Just circle of life, sad thing. All the guys out there cringed. Okay, now, he said, are you going to keep them through the winter? Because you got to feed your cows through the winter. There's no pasture to go out and eat, green grass. So you put them in a pasture or in a barn, and you have to feed them hay, which now, Matt, is called really what? Oh, you're on mute.
Crap. Alfalfa?
That's it. Alfalfa. So, well, for some of you out west, you may know California is in a major drought. Utah is in a drought. Wyoming is in a drought. Parts of Idaho are in a drought. And what that means is alfalfa crops are not as productive. So hay is starting to become very valuable.
Ooh, the good old supply and demand. Low supply. All right.
Yeah. Can you feel it coming?
Yep. I was an econ major. That was my major.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. Supply and demand. Buy low, sell high. It's just key to life. All right. So then he called me up and he goes, I got a buddy. It's in a town called Hamer. I don't even know where it's at. It's a little town, an hour away. But he goes, I got this buddy in Hamer. We're good old friends. He's willing to sell me 80 tons of hay for $150 per ton, $150 a ton. For those of you that drive down the road and you see these huge hay bales that are like 8 feet long and 5 feet tall, and they make corn mazes out of them around Halloween and all that, those are a ton hay bale. That's a ton.
Okay.
Did you know that?
No.
Okay. So
I say that a lot. That's a ton.
Yeah. So a ton is $150. And I go, how many tons am I going to need for my 10 cows? And he goes, you're going to need about 18 tons to get them through the winter. So I did the math. That's around $2,000 or so. And so in my investment in my cows, I need to budget about $2,000. In my health savings account, I did my contribution for this year and then funded the LLC because I bought the cows for $8,000. And I need to pasturing is going to run me about $1,200 this summer, and then $2,000 to $2,500 for hay in the winter. All right, there we go. Now, folks, the reason why I'm breaking down this basics too, this is what you need to do. This is what we talked about in the summit. When you're ready to invest your IRA, you got to run some financial models. What am I buying? What are the holding costs going to be? And what am I going to sell it for? And then you do your ROI. What's my return on investment? Divide it by 12. There's your annualized ROI. And you want to go, how am I doing? So anyway, quickly, I guess I'm wasting time here. Maybe, maybe not. But I took those costs and I said, okay, if I hold the cows through the winter, they're going to weigh each 200 to 300 pounds more. Then I can sell them for more in the spring. I think I'm going to hold them through the winter. Then he said, do you want to buy the extra hay? And I go, what do you think? And he goes, well, I'll split it with you. So we might go buy another 60 tons of hay. And he goes, $150, a good price. And I said, hold that thought. I'll get back to you. So I started texting some of my other rancher friends. And I text Liddell Air, the partner in our accounting firm. And I just said, hey, is $150 a good price for a ton? Liddell texts me back and he goes, I'm paying $225 right now. Because southern Utah, it is a terrible drought. And then I text one other person. I said 150, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, we're paying 200 a ton." So I said, "Buy it." And he goes, "Where do you want to put it?" I go, "What do you mean? Where do I got to put it? Can't you just leave it there?" He's like, "No, this guy doesn't want it. You got to come get it." I'm like, "Damn." So he goes, "Well, we'll send a semi over there. It usually costs about $5 a ton for a semi to pick them up and drop it off over here, and we'll cover it with blue tarps." Some of you that drive by farms see that. And he goes, "We'll cover it with tarps so it doesn't get wet and mold. And then come December, when all the farmers are desperate for hay, you probably can double your money." That's my investment. And my health savings account's doing it. There you go. That's how you self-direct, people. Self-direct 101. Isn't that a fun example?
That is cool. I love that. I mean, I would never have thought you'd buy hay.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I mean, alfalfa. I mean, some may call it alfalfa.
Yeah. Some may call it scrumptious. A cow may call it scrumptious, but That's what I'm doing. Okay, next question. You go. While I eat my salad here. I'm going to take my bite off camera and then chew very quietly. Okay, keep going.
Okay. Had a question come in about inherited accounts. The question is if my spouse has passed away, do I need to receive the funds in an inherited account, or can I roll them over to myself? This is a social comment post. So I want to break down the difference between doing a spousal rollover and an inherited IRA. So if you receive funds, let's say you have a spouse, okay?
Right.
And your spouse passes away. You're the beneficiary on their account. Yeah. How am I going to receive that?
Lots of assumptions there. First of all, are you happily married? Then your spouse dies. Are you happy or sad? And then
I can't help you there.
Your spouse could have left the money to a sordid person, Bridges of Madison County. You never know who they could have left it.
I don't know that reference.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Okay. Anyway, keep going.
That's not my genre.
So we're going to just assume that your spouse loved you enough to make you the beneficiary of the IRA. All right, keep going.
Okay, because if they didn't, they would have had to you would have had to sign a disclaimer saying that it was okay for them to leave it to someone else anyway. So it's kind of hard not to leave it to your spouse unless you got a prenup or they sign off on you leaving it to someone else. But nonetheless, this is the common scenario. Just by Mark.
Ooh, I've got a question for you after this.
County.
All right, keep going.
All right, so your spouse passes away. You're dealing with the assets. A lot of people think, oh, I need to get an inherited IRA then. I don't want to distribute the account. And the surviving spouse thinks, I need to do an inherited IRA. No, do not do an inherited IRA. Spouses can do what's called a spousal rollover. If your spouse passed away, you can roll over their account. Let's say they had a Roth IRA. You can roll over their account from their Roth IRA into your Roth IRA, or you can set up a new Roth IRA and roll over your spouse's account into a Roth IRA. Now it's just a Roth IRA in your name. This would be the same if it's a traditional or a SEP or whatever. So you can receive the account from your deceased spouse into your own account in your own name that now goes based on your age. You can combine it with your other accounts and assets. It's so much easier and simpler. An inherited IRA, if you take the inherited IRA over as a spouse, have 10 years of when you use that account. That account has to be closed out and fully distributed in 10 years on inherited IRAs now. So now inherited IRAs are great options for kids or other non-spouse beneficiaries. But if you're a spouse, we want you the general rule would be to receive those assets into an IRA in your name using a spousal rollover. That's it.
Okay. I like it. Now, I have to ask a question. Are the rules for designating a beneficiary different for a retirement account than a life insurance policy? Because I thought I could take out a life insurance policy and I could name not my spouse as a beneficiary, some floozy or whatever, right? And then I don't even know what that word means, but my wife would call it that. So, but if I didn't name my spouse on my life insurance policy, I don't have to get a waiver from her.
I don't know. I don't know. I know in retirement accounts that you do have to have a spousal waiver, and every retirement account provider, from Fidelity, everyone, when in the beneficiary section of when you designate a beneficiary, it says, if you're married and listing a spouse and listing someone else who is not your spouse as the beneficiary, you have to have a spousal waiver. Now, this is in the law for retirement accounts in ERISA for 401ks, and it is generally the same rule always applied on IRAs as well. So we require it here to have a spousal waiver if you're not going to list your spouse.
Okay.
Everyone else does too. And those have to be notarized as well because you need to make sure that signature is valid of the spouse who said, I know I won't be inheriting this account.
Okay. All right.
Because let me say this too. There are laws in a lot of states when you're married, unless you have a prenuptial or postnuptial agreement that says your surviving spouse is entitled to a certain portion of your estate, like 50% automatically. If you, so you got to be careful on those things. And obviously if those getting married, make sure you're thinking through those issues.
Okay. I've got a question from Nathan. I apologize. A lot of times, you know what? I think this is fair. For many of our podcasts in years past, I've gotten some complaints once in a while going, can you talk about self-directing in anything other than real estate? I mean, I really consumed so many of our podcasts. People buying rentals, flipping homes, doing wholesaling, rehabs. It was just self-directing. A lot of people thought you only self-directed for real estate. Now we're bringing up cryptocurrency constantly, and I've gotten a couple thoughts. Can you quit talking about crypto? And I'm like, whatever the flavor of the month is.
Your real estate question, then.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're still doing more real estate accounts, but crypto is hot, and everybody's still learning it. The real estate stuff, you could have listened to all of our stuff before, read our books, and that we've been teaching that for years.
Yeah. So this is a question regarding crypto. That was my disclaimer. Okay. This is from Nathan. He said, I've been doing crypto mining. His question is over about 3 paragraphs, so I'm just going to truncate it here and summarize it. And so he said, I built my mining rigs. I'm drawing in income from some of this mining. I'm having a good time, making money, blah, blah, blah. And he said, essentially his question is, how can I move my rigs into my IRA? I hate to say, Nathan, it's not easy. In fact, moving your rig is impossible. But there's a back door. There's a loop here. If you know what you're doing with mining and you're making money, now everybody, whether you like crypto mining or not, let's step back for a minute. This is the theme of self-directing. I just got chills because I want to say this. This is so exciting. If you're good at something, figure out a way to do it in your retirement account.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the secret to success right there.
Yeah, that's our real estate clients that are like, they bought rentals, they flip houses, they're private money lenders, and they're like, that's how they make money day to day. And then they're like, wait, you mean I can do this with my retirement account? I don't have to buy a crappy mutual fund?
Yeah. Wow. So
invest in what you know.
Yeah. And so Nathan, you're onto it. You're saying, hey, I've cracked the code. I've figured it out. I know how to make money mining. Now I want to move my rig into my retirement account. That's kind of like saying, I have this rental property that's cash flowing crazy. Can I move the rental property into my IRA? Same type of concept. The answer is no. But it doesn't mean you give up. You're on to something. This is a good idea, Nathan. And for all of you out there with cash flowing rental properties, what we would do is say your next rig, your next rental, take some profits from your current rig, Nathan, and start buying the pieces for a new rig. Now, for you to assemble it and get it going, we have some questions of sweat equity and how engaged in the process you are. I would prefer that you would hire one of your buddies, because if you're crypto mining, you have a buddy that's mining too. You didn't learn this in a vacuum on your own. So pay one of your friends $100 and say, hey, can you please put together my crypto rig for me? I'll pay $100. Here's the parts I've ordered. And you've set up your LLC and you're doing your thing. So try to make sure you get someone involved in that sweat equity portion. But don't give up on the concept, Nathan. And for those of you out there that know how to buy a rental that cash flows, turn your pivot, which is a new word in business these days, but pivot, turn your perception, your angle, and look out the window at doing this with a retirement account. I can guarantee you 5 to 10 years from now or sooner, you'll be so happy you did to create that tax-free or tax-deferred structure. That's my answer.
Yeah. Those are the people who are most successful with their self-directed IRA. People who have already realized this is what I'm good at. and the people that have the really big accounts over here, the stuff their IRA invests into is the stuff they do personally. It's in the industry that they're in personally. They're just, they've just figured out, all right, here's the type of stuff I do in my IRA in real estate. Here's what I'm doing personally in real estate. Their knowledge base and opportunity and deal flow and an edge they have on everyone else is what gives them big returns in their IRA. Same thing here with crypto. I mean, it's same thing.
Yep.
Love it. Great example. Okay, Sam, I got, how many more questions you got?
Why don't you take one? You take one,
okay.
I'll take one.
All right. Okay, Sam had a question, another solo K question. A lot of solo K questions coming in.
Okay.
He says, question, can you still deduct dollar for dollar the funds you place in a solo K for the 2020 calendar year?
Oh,
from
now hold up. Before you finish, I just want to say this. We answered this question on the Main Street Business podcast. We recorded yesterday. So I told Sam to go listen to yesterday's podcast. So as soon as you started to say it. Now, if you want to quickly reply to it for our other listeners that may have missed that, but just FYI, Sam.
Okay, I do remember this now.
Okay.
It says, can you still deduct dollar for dollar the funds you place in a solo 401k 2020 calendar year from your income if your business operated a net loss in 2020? Okay, now remember, you can still make 2020 employer contributions to a solo K, even if you haven't set up the solo K yet. You could set it up now until your company tax return deadline and make employer contributions. You won't be able to make employee. You would have had to do that by December 31st. That's one point. But the question about, can I make a solo K contribution if my business is at a loss? No, you cannot if you're a sole proprietorship and you're going on Schedule C, because you contribute there based on net income. So if you had a loss in 2020, Sam, and you're a sole prop, no. But if you're a S corporation, your contributions are not based on the net income of your S corp. It's based on your wages. Okay. So yes, effectively you could still contribute because it's based off your S corp W-2. It's not based off your net profit or loss. So in the S corp, you could contribute, get the deductions in 2020, giving you a further net loss. And that's it. So depends.
Okay. Now
we give a little more color to that on the Main Street Business podcast. Just trying to get you over there. It was a good episode last week too.
In fact, I'd say we took almost 5 to 10 minutes on that question. So anybody that's not aware of it, please get over to mainstreetbusiness.com and the other podcast. All right. I like Chet's question because it's gosh darn hard.
I know this one. I can hit this if you want.
Okay, a
little bit.
Yeah, I know you could hit it. It's hard for me. Matt, since you wrote the book on this, you can talk to it more quickly and probably distinctly. But let me take part one. Can I do that? Mm-hmm. Okay, there's 3 parts to Chet's question. Said, thanks, guys. Enjoy the show there. And you said, number 1, are funds in an inherited IRA counted in the pro rata traditional IRA aggregate calculation when converting to Roth IRA? All right, now let me put that in English for everybody. Let's say we go back to Hope, our first question on the show. And Hope says, I want to contribute to a Roth, but I have too much money. And we told her, do the backdoor Roth. But we skipped over an important piece there. If Hope has traditional IRA money sitting around somewhere, before she can do the backdoor Roth, she's got to convert that other traditional money to Roth. Now, that may not be a problem for her. She's like, well, I've been wanting to convert it to Roth anyway, so freaking let's do it. And let's do it all at once. Let's rip off the Band-Aid, get it done with. But I have a YouTube video that's got a lot of traction on chunking and when to convert to a Roth and doing it in stages, because converting too much Roth in 1 year might kick you into a higher tax bracket. So you kind of want to find that sweet spot. All right. So we brushed over that when we were talking about Hope's question.
Yeah. And if Hope didn't have a traditional IRA, she gets to skip that. Don't worry. Or if she's got traditional 401k dollars, she gets to skip that.
Yeah. So one method there, Hope, or anybody listening, she could roll over her traditional IRA money into a 401k and to shelter it from this requirement. And interestingly enough, Chet asks, I've got an inherited IRA. So a loved one of his died, and it wasn't his wife, or else he would have rolled it over into his current IRA because he has that spousal rollover that Matt talked about.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming
Man, you're bringing the show all together.
Yeah, isn't this cool? It's come together.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do part one. Chet, I'm also assuming is male because I've never met a girl named Chet, so I'm hoping that I'm okay there. So Chet's not, his wife didn't die. It was probably a grandma or a parent or a grandpa that said, I'm going to leave you an IRA. Now, that inherited IRA could be Roth or it could be traditional. Now, since he's asking this question, we have to assume, this is called deductive reasoning, that it is a traditional IRA, or he wouldn't be asking this, because it sounds like he wants to do a Roth conversion. And he's saying, hey, I got this traditional IRA over here. Do I have to convert that to Roth first, like you were talking about with Hope? Do I have to do that? Or could I roll it into a 401k? Or how do I deal with that if I want to convert to Roth? And he said pro rata traditional IRA aggregate calculation. I think that's a little too much verbiage there, Chet. You're overcomplicating it. The question is, do I have to? Yeah. Do I have to convert that to Roth at the same time or not? Here's the easy answer. No. In fact, you can't. An inherited IRA is something you can't convert to a Roth. It's stuck traditional, and it's over. So you don't even have to include it in the calculation. You also cannot roll it into a traditional 401k because it's like a spotted white leopard now, and that's what it's going to stay. You can't change the character of it. So don't worry about it. It's outside the box. You're good. Did I answer that well enough? Kind of brought together some of the show?
Yeah, I love that. I love the answer too. I was just going to say I concur. Okay. Yeah, inherited IRAs you can't convert anyway, so they don't even get into the conversation.
Now, I think you folks are going to like 2 and 3, and they're tricky. So, Matt, I may comment, but you go for it, bud. Yeah. Take it to the hoop.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about the mega backdoor IRA and when the 58K or 64K limit does not apply? Now, I presume you're talking about the Roth backdoor 401K. Okay, because the IRA, you're getting 6 or 7, if you're 50 or over a year in. That's it.
Now, Matt, stop. Put it in English for everybody else. Say, this is what Chet's asking. There's this term called, can I do that? I'll just say that fast.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, everybody, there's this thing called a mega Roth, and it's out there on the web. We've got comments, and we've got articles on it and videos too. But some people are out there going, you need to do a mega Roth. You could do up to 58 or 64, and they kind of go through this mega Roth concept. And everybody's like, oh, I want to get on that bandwagon. I want to get a ticket to that train. Choo-choo, get me on that money train. So that's what Chet's asking about. How do I get this mega backdoor IRA Roth going? And then Matt, go ahead, put it in context. I just want to build context.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to need a 401k, and most people doing this are going to be using a solo 401k.
Can't do it with an IRA.
You can't do it with an IRA. Okay. You're getting 7 in a year max, and that's assuming you're over 50. Everyone else, we're doing 6. Okay. So if I want to do this 58K, it's actually a mega backdoor Roth 401k to be specific. Now, how do I get 58K, 64 if you're over 50? How do I get those maximum amounts in to a 401k? Because that's the maximum contribution you can put into a solo K. 19.5, the employee contribution can be Roth from the beginning. Okay. But all the rest, the other, what is that? 38.5 or whatever. That is all traditional contributions made by the employer. Typically. Now you can convert that immediately to Roth. Boom. There you go. You've got 58K Roth dollars in a 401k per year.
And if you own the company 100% you, that's easy.
Yeah. And that'll take about a W-2 if you're an S Corp. You'd probably be an S Corp for those who would be doing this, have this type of income. you're going to have about a W-2 of about 140 grand to pull that off. Okay. Now, the second way to get there is to do the 19.5 in Roth and the other 38.5, where am I at? 39.5, whatever it is, 38.5, I think, to get to the total 58,000. Now, the other 38.5 you could do as after-tax contributions. It's not a match. It's not the employer contribution of 25% of your wages. It's more employee contributions made after tax. So let's say you're like, Matt, I only took a W-2 for 100 grand, or only want to do a W-2 for 80. Okay. And you're wanting to get this 58K in. It's possible to then instead do 38.5 here, the difference. I haven't done the math here, but you know what I'm talking about. To get up to the 58K.
It's 38.5.
Is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was hoping my handy dandy, co-host CPA could confirm. Yes, thank you. All right.
There you go.
So you can do that as an after-tax contribution and then convert it to Roth. And you don't get a deduction because it's after tax, but you don't pay tax either when you convert it. So it just is like you pretty much did 58K in Roth from the beginning. Now in a solo K, you can do this, and our solo K allows for after-tax contributions. Now it takes some work. I just want to say, when a lot of clients ask a lot of these strategies, I think sometimes when they go do it, they're like, ugh, how come I have to do it this way? Well, you're using a loophole. You're stretching the tax code in your favor. You gotta actually tie the knots and walk through them. Like the loophole is not like the easy button that's 6,000 in your Roth. Okay. That's 19.5. That's the easy part. So just know there's some extra steps. But there is a way absolutely to get 58K in of Roth dollars per year.
Now, if I may say two things. One, you could do the mega backdoor Roth at your day job. The mega backdoor Roth 401k, people. You can.
Yeah.
Because you're not relying on your employer to match the rest up to 58. You're just
That's
doing.
The first, yeah. That's the first clients I've seen do this. And frankly, that's who this strategy was created for. A lot of people in the solo K space have came around to it. And I'm like, big deal. You've always been able to do this because just convert your employer contribution to Roth on day 2. And it's really only the really high income people really willing to go this far, 60 grand basically in Roth a year. Your W-2 might be 140 grand anyways. So I've always been like, okay, we've always been able to do this. Now this strategy came about because the IRS gave a ruling about 4 or 5 years ago on can after-tax contributions in a 401k be converted to Roth, and they said yes.
Okay.
And those people Mark mentioned, the people at their day job, you're a high-income earner, you've got the cash and ability, you want to be able to throw, because not everyone can throw 60 grand into a retirement account every year.
Yeah.
I get that. And if you're like not there yet, don't worry about it. This is a later thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I first came upon it was actually oil and gas workers, these clients of mine that self-directed their Roth IRAs, but then in their 401ks and their day job, they were doing this because they were making like 200 grand a year almost. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we don't need this money. We freaking live in like Alaska on in company approved housing, they were throwing it in and doing and Roth. I thought it was really cool. So
now here's my second point. For those that do have a solo 401k, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, you're actually better off to do the after-tax employee contribution and don't rely on your company to do the remaining 25%. And the reason is 2 words: self-employment tax. Self-employment's hyphenated, people, 1 word. So self-employment tax is, see, if you have an S corp, you're trying to take the lowest possible salary. That's the strategy. So you're going to take what's called reasonable comp, take the lowest possible salary on what the IRS is going to let you get away with. And that's, we've been teaching that for 20 years. And we feel very confident on a matrix that helps you get there. And then whatever's left, you do your 19.5 and a 25% company match on your total salary. That's what we've been teaching for years until this little mega backdoor Roth 401k came around. And then we said, oh, well, I could take more salary and do the company match to get to the 58, but that sucks because you've got to take way too much of the self-employment tax. So we really didn't, we dismissed the mega backdoor Roth because of that SE tax issue. But then we learned about this after-tax employee contribution, which doesn't require you to take that massive salary to get there. Theoretically, you're only going to need a salary of about 80, because you got to take your salary minus your 15 for FICA. So you're probably going to be around that. So that's the beauty of this. So a little more technical for some of you out there.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Absolutely right.
And part 3. Okay.
All right. Chet, man, you went for 3. These were also not easy ones.
No. But they're good. They're good ones.
Yeah. Chet's like an expert, or maybe he's in a CPA or tax lawyer. I don't know. Okay. Says, do you know if Roth IRAs can borrow money based on securities, back line of credit, or if there are any providers of such a thing? I know it's available for regular money, but what about retirement money? All right. Theoretically, yes, a Roth IRA could borrow money based on its assets and even have a line of credit for such, kind of like, let's say, a margin trading account. But we don't see that for 2 reasons. One is most margin accounts or lines of credit, even if there's an asset backing it, they're going to make someone sign a guarantee. If you guarantee that for your IRA, that you've caused what's called an extension of credit prohibited transaction. So that ain't going to work. The second problem is when you leverage purchasing power, let's say a Roth IRA brokerage account, to go buy, let's say you got 50 grand of stock already in your Roth IRA, and you're like, I want a margin account, and they'll let me borrow the whole thing to buy another 50 grand. So I could buy 100,000 of assets and I'll have 50,000 in debt. But I think the market's going to go up, so I'm going to make it all up. I'll be fine. Well, you're leveraging the purchasing power of your Roth with debt. It's going to cause, and this is it for traditionals too, causes a tax called UDFI. We've got a podcast episode on that explains how that works when you leverage purchasing power of your retirement account with debt, whether it's a mortgage on a property. There's a little tax on it called UDFI. It's a chapter in my book. We covered it in the summit at length and gave examples. So just make sure you're aware of that. So theoretically, it's possible. Practically, no one does it. The banks don't do it because they know you have to sign a personal guarantee and they know that violates the rules, but they don't want to lend you the money unless you do. So I just don't see it. We definitely see loans to IRAs buying real estate and banks that are loaning because they're like, we're buying real property. Like this is a flat asset, that a hard asset that we know the value of. It's not the stock market that we lend on that goes up and down and is super volatile. Real estate's, a little more traditional for banks to lend on, of course. And so they'll loan on those, what's called non-recourse, where you're not guaranteeing the debt. There's no personal guarantee required. They're just loaning to the IRA. And if you default, they're going to foreclose and just take the property back. So.
Okay. Well, I heard from our producer, this is our longest show we've ever recorded. It's an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know. We got carried away. I'm enjoying it. I did.
Mark and I, we spent years billing by the hour. So can you blame us?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Can you blame us? No one else talks to us at home. So we just come to work. You people out there in podcast land, you're the only ones that'll listen to us. Our kids won't.
And really, I don't have anything important or interesting to say or insightful outside of retirement accounts.
Yeah.
I'm just, I'm just average out there on everything else.
It is kind of funny when Matt and I go to lunch. We're like, how's your relationship? How's your kids? You do anything fun lately? No? Okay, well, let's talk about IRAs. People over here are lunch, they're like, man, those guys are boring. Well, anyway, that's us. Well, we love you guys.
Guilty as charged.
thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we sure appreciate it. This is a fun time for us. So sorry we went a little long. Hopefully there was a golden nugget or two in there for you. Matt, take us out. Any final words for our listeners?
Yeah. If you made it an hour and 20 minutes on this podcast,
5 commutes.
Listening to 2 tax attorneys talk about retirement accounts, I think you like the show. Give us a 5-star review already, okay? Or like us or whatever it is, subscribe. It just helps other people find the show. And please, if you're thinking, God, why don't you guys cover this? I want you guys to cover this. Go throw it in the podcast questions. Go to directedira.com/podcast. We truly want to cover what you want. And that's what we do on Open Forum. So throw in your questions there, like David, Chet, Gary, all your other fellow listeners that are throwing in their questions. We look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be back with another amazing episode. Don't forget the Self-Directed IRA Summit recording is up and available. You'll be able to get that at sdirahandbook.com. SDIRA, that's for Self-Directed IRA, sdirahandbook.com, or at sdirasummit.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.